a big part of saving money is trying to get it right the very first time. So we typically tell people to ask themselves these two questions.
You're listening to How to Hydroponic with Ryan and Tessa.
This is episode 4, and we're going to be talking about the most common hydroponic systems and how you can pick the one that's going to best suit your unique lifestyle.
So in the previous episode, we've broken down all the different parts of hydroponic systems, and now we're going to explain how those parts can be used to create totally different styles of hydroponics and give you really good benefits for growing certain things and kind of the pros and cons of each hydroponic system. So
like when you guys first dive into hydroponics, it's going to be very overwhelming. There is hundreds of different systems out there, and it's really hard to know what one is best for you, what can grow what, and how can you pick one when there is like thousands out there and you get almost like stuck in this choice paralysis. So we're hoping to kind of cut through all that noise and really help you, guide you into finding the best one that's going to fit your lifestyle. And we're going to start off with the most common kinds.
Yes, so let's jump right into it. One of the most common ones that you'll see if you like Googled hydroponics is going to be what's known as a nutrients film technique, or N.F.T. So this is often when you'll see like trays or tubes with plants growing alongside them, and these channels will have water that's flowing along the bottom of them. It's very thin, and it's basically a film of water, and the roots are in that film of water, and part of the roots are actually exposed to the air, and the rest of them are exposed to the water. And a big theme you'll start to find with all of these systems is their goal is to try and get the best oxygen to water ratio for those roots, and they just accomplish it in different ways. Now, the nutrients film technique is really, really nice because it sort of runs just automatically. The water is going to circulate from a reservoir down each one of these troughs back to the reservoir and just do that constantly. And in doing that, it's oxygenating the water, so you don't need aeration and anything like that.
So the pros of the N.F.T system is it is simple. Especially if you're beginning at hydroponics, it doesn't require a lot of parts. It grows a variety of plants, from your leafy greens to your herbs, as well as you can do larger plants like your tomato and pepper plants. And it's very easy to scale because you can either just add another trough to increase your gardening, and this style actually allows you to do it vertically as well. So now you can grow vertically, which allows you to just grow a lot more plants. The the cons to this system, the N.F.T, is that it is susceptible to a power outage because it requires a pump to flow the water down. If the electricity does go out, that pump's going to stop working. But because you're going to have a thin water film in the trays, you can wait about 2 hours to a day before you're going to see your plants kind of show signs of deficiencies.
Yes, exactly. And one other kind of con that can be there is the fact that the roots only have so much space to grow because they're in these channels. So really large plants often aren't going to do as well in N.F.T as they would do in other types of systems that we'll be getting into.
What he said.
Yeah. So another really common system that you'll see is what's known as deep water culture, or DWC. So the way that this works is you're going to have a netting pot or something kind of placed on a lid, and underneath is a basin of water. Kind of think of it of like a tub with a lid on top. The plants are going to be on that lid, and the roots are going to come down into that tub. And that's pretty much it. The plant's roots are going to be able to absorb the water right obviously from the tub, and there's a bit of air in between, and that's where a lot of the oxygen for the roots is coming from too. It's really nice because this system doesn't have any pumps that are circulating the water, and it does require oxygenation of some sort, so often you'll have some sort of an air pump to keep the water oxygenated.
So the pros for the deep water culture is it is great for large plants that require big root systems, and it gives them that space to kind of really spread out and thrive and grow, which is good. It's also really good if you live in areas that are like extremely hot, because it's a big water basin. It takes a lot longer to warm up, so you're gonna have a lot more consistent temperatures compared to like a little film of water that doesn't take long to warm up. So there is the pros are there, and then the con is it's big and heavy, so it requires a lot of room. You're having these tubs, and they're really hard. They take up space, and so if you're going indoors, you can't grow as many plants. As well as it's really hard to scale because you're dealing with these big tubs and they're heavy.
You're not doing that vertically.
Yeah, you're not doing it vertically, so you're gonna be having to extend out.
Awesome. So then the next one that you're going to hear about, because this technology is somewhat new and it's sort of revolutionizing hydroponics, is aeroponics. So in aeroponics, think very similar to your deep water culture. You're going to have a basin and you're going to have your plants on a lid and then those roots exposed into that basin. But instead of this basin filled with water, it's actually empty. And you're going to have misters or aerators that are spraying real fine mist of your water nutrient solution. And they'll usually do that on a timer. They might do that steady. But what this does is it kind of provides the ultimate amount of water and oxygen ratio, which is sort of the goal when you're growing hydroponically. And that allows for it to grow really, really fast and for the plant to stay very healthy.
So that's the pro. He took the pro. Yeah, it like he said, it's going to be the best to maximize that oxygen and nutrients ratio. Plants grow really fast, as well as this is a method that you can use to grow vertically. So it's great for scaling. The cons of it is it does require a lot more monitoring and maintenance. There is going to be a high initial startup cost. And then there's also like these misters, they're kind of prone to plugging. And so again, it's going to require a lot more maintenance and just, you're going to have to make sure you keep an eye on that, because once they plug off, your plant's roots will dry up a lot faster because they're just in air. And that's one thing that...
A little less forgiving,
a little
that's
less
for sure.
forgiving, yeah. And then, because of that, power outages. It's really, it affects the plant a lot when it is in aeroponics.
Exactly. So another great hydroponic method that you'll again see often mentioned is going to be ebb and flow, or flood and drain. Now, this works kind of like a combination of the deep water culture and a little bit, I guess, of the aeroponics. You're going to have your plants on a lid, and then they're in a basin again. But instead of this basin always filled with water, instead this basin's actually going to fill up with water, and then it's going to drain out. And what that does is kind of flood the roots with a bunch of water, and then when it drains, it gives the roots a bunch of oxygen. And this kind of creates like a breathing motion for the plants. This is a really nice system if you kind of want the best of both worlds.
Yes, the pros to this system is it's versatile and it can support a wide variety of plants, as well as, like he said, it's kind of like that breathe-in method allows for great oxygen to nutrients ratio, and plants can grow well, really, really well in this. They grow pretty fast. All systems, hydroponics will grow plants faster, but this system really optimizes it. The cons of it is there is a lot of moving parts, and it can, like, because it's flooding and draining, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, so it does require maintenance. You're going to have to regularly clean it just to prevent these blockages and make sure nothing makes it flood all over the place. And lastly is it is going to be really hard for beginners because there's a lot of parts and you can't scale it vertically. So it's really hard to scale because, again, it's these big tubs and it's hard to stack tubs because it gets very, very heavy.
Now, another more into the passive hydroponic systems. Now, passive ones tend to have no pumps or no electronic parts, is the Kratky method. So the Kratky method is also kind of fairly new, and that's another really interesting thing about this method is that it just relies on essentially the right water to air ratio. The plants are going to be put into a particular sized container of water and nutrients, and as the plants are using up that water and nutrients, it goes down and it exposes the air to the roots. And if you do it right, it's going to remove the water at the right amount, so it's getting the oxygen in the water that it needs without you having to add more water or to oxygenate that water. So you pretty much just leave it, and it's really, really nice for beginners because of this, because it's so simple. You don't need a whole bunch of parts, and there's almost nothing that can go wrong as long as your containers are sized properly.
Yes, so it is very cheap to start off. If you are just getting into hydroponics and you want to dip your toes, this is by far the best method to try out. But yeah, once it's set up, there's very little intervention. The limits on it is kind of like what you can grow, because once you put your plant in it, and it uses up all the water and nutrients, you have to harvest it. You can't kind of replenish it with more nutrients and water. So there is a time limit on the plants that you're growing. And you have to grow smaller plants. That's best for smaller plants. So it kind of limits what you can grow. But again, great for just trying out hydroponics.
So now you kind of know what are the most popular systems, and then from there you can kind of fit one that's going to fit your lifestyle best. A big part of saving money is trying to get it right the very first time. So we typically tell people to ask themselves these two questions. The first is, what do you want to grow? Is it small plants? Is it big plants? And then how much do you want to grow?
Yes, and so by answering these two questions, you can gain a lot of clarity on the type of system that you need for your lifestyle and your needs, and you can kind of set yourself up for success. So if you want to grow large plants like your tomatoes and your pepper plants, you're not going to want a Kratky system. If you want to grow just lettuces and you just want to dabble, you're not going to want to invest in these large systems that are like thousands of dollars. You're probably going to want a Kratky system.
And then by answering like how much you want to grow, you're going to be able to properly size out how much space you need, and also the systems that work good for that. You might see systems that claim to grow 75 plants, but if they're in like a little 1 foot by 1 foot area, there's no way that's going to happen because plants need a lot of space to grow.
And with that is with how much you kind of can see, especially if you're going indoors, how much room you have, and can you do a deep water? Because it's like, hey, you might want to try out a deep water, but you want to grow a lot of plants. That's not going to be the system for you. You can go into vertical if you have tight like spaces. And so it's just kind of giving you more idea of what's going to better suit your lifestyle.
And it's a lot to cover. It's a lot to remember all at once. So we've actually made a chart that goes through this and even other hydroponic systems, weighing the pros and cons, weighing the startup costs, and what they do best. So then you can just have a look at that chart and determine which version, which type of hydroponic system is going to solve your problem the best. And that will be in a link in the description of this episode.
As well as when you click that link and you sign up, you'll have to put your email so we can send you that chart. We're also going to give you the PDF of going over all of the systems we went over, as well as maybe a few extras and the pros and cons. So if you're visual, I'm a visual learner, you can get the visual format for it. So in our next episode, now that you kind of determine what system fits your unique lifestyle, we're going to go over 5 essential things that you want to consider when getting a hydroponic system to make sure that it actually works and that it will last a lifetime.
Awesome. And if you like this and you like kind of geeking out about hydroponics and learning more, I recommend you get our book, which is Indoor Garden Hydroponic Secrets. So you can find that on our website at www.hopeinnovation.ca. A big thing that will help us a bunch is sharing, to subscribe, to follow us, and let your friends and family know about us. Help us grow so we can help you grow.